Dr. Jill Stein, thank you so much for joining me here in Iowa for the Green Party's annual meeting. What's the state of the Green Party today?
The Green Party is rising up strong and courageous and with a sense of responsibility, because in the last election, in the presidential race, we really emerged as the vehicle for the political opposition. And I should qualify that to say the non-corporate, people-powered political opposition.
You ran for president on the Green Party ticket in 2012. What have you learned? What has the party learned from that campaign?
What I learned is that there is a rebellion going on in full swing, and it takes the form of a demand for jobs. Detroit is bankrupt, and while we've been bailing out the corporations of Detroit, here we are neglecting the people. That we continue to bail out the banks to $85 billion a month. Our schools are being privatized. The climate is in meltdown. The president is promoting more free trade agreements. People are rising up angry, and we see a profound social movement that's really sweeping the country and that's sweeping really the world. And the Green Party emerged from that race as the voice, increasingly unified voice, of the principled political opposition. So what I learned was that we have the future in our hands, and as the Green Party, we have an incredible opportunity and an incredible responsibility to move that social movement forward and give it a political voice, because we not only have solutions to the devastating problems that we face, we have real on-the-ground blueprints for how to create jobs, for how to create free public higher education, get students out of debt, downsize the military, tax the rich, move to a Medicare for all healthcare system. These are the solutions that people are clamoring for. The Green Party is the one vehicle for them, and I should add, to stop the meltdown of the climate, which we're seeing really all around us in record-breaking storms and heat waves and all the rest. So the Green Party has the solutions. We've got a majority agenda. It's all about giving people really the framework in which to come together, the vehicle to achieve these things.
You have these two major parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, that are flushed with cash. Around here at this annual meeting, you hear the word movement a lot. How difficult is it for movement politics to take on money politics?
It's very difficult, but I think what we're seeing on the ground is that movement politics is breaking through. It's prevailing. We're seeing this in Tunisia. There's a very active struggle in Egypt. The austerity movements in Brazil, in Spain, in Cyprus, in Greece. We are seeing the incredible challenge of survival, of putting food on the table, of getting jobs when they are being shipped overseas to the cheapest markets to provide the biggest profits for corporations. We're seeing the incredible pressure of reality now motivate people in a way that we've never been motivated before. 37 million students who are effectively indentured servants from the debt that they have had to take on in order to get a college education, which ought to be a human right. So while it's very hard to organize politically, it's very hard to survive in today's world, and that makes for, I think, an inevitable breakthrough. The question is when, and the more we are organized as a political party, the more quickly we can provide a unified structure and reach critical mass to get to that breakthrough. And that's what the Green Party is providing.
Recently, we saw the House try to defund the NSA surveillance program with the Amash Amendment, and we saw new political coalitions formed. We saw progressives joining with Tea Partiers. We saw members breaking from the ranks of their leadership. These new political coalitions that are forming, is that an opportunity that the Green Party can take advantage of?
Absolutely, and I think that the Greens, one of the mottos of the Greens going back to Germany was neither left nor right, but forward. And in the Greens, we think of ourselves as grassroots. It's not left or right. It's really a question of whether we are driven by the top or whether we, the people, are driving our government from the bottom. We are the government. So, I think Greens transcend those traditional left-right boundaries. We've been working actually with libertarians throughout our campaign to address the issues of censorship. We were both locked out of the presidential debates, even though our campaign was on the ballot for 85% of American voters. They deserve to know who their choices are. So we've been collaborating with libertarians to try to break through on elections, to stop the war on drugs, to stop the war on our civil liberties, and in fact to just stop the wars, which are consuming our budget and the very lifeblood, literally, of our nation.
Libertarians have gained a lot of traction recently. RT hosted the third-party debate last year between you and the Libertarian presidential candidate, Gary Johnson. With the Libertarian Party growing stronger, is that something that should worry the Greens, or is that an opportunity for the Greens to pick off more people who are disenfranchised with the two-party system?
I think so. And polls showed going into the last election that about 1 out of every 2 eligible voters was not going to vote because they didn't like the choices that were consistently force-fed. It's like we've got a feeding tube down our noses as well. We're being force-fed the toxic diet of American politics.
It's as though there's a sleeping giant out there.
Absolutely, and I think it's wonderful to be working with libertarians to try to break through. But at the end of the day, I think what Greens bring to the table is not only restoring our civil liberties and our basic Bill of Rights and our freedoms, but it's also our very survival as a society, because the Greens can really talk about what's going on with climate change, what's going on with our economy, the bailouts of the banks, the capture of our political system by big money. So the Greens are the one party which is not supported by big money or by corporations. And so we stand apart a little bit from the libertarians on that. Gary Johnson's solution for that was to have people sort of wearing their labels, if they're sponsored by, by pharmaceutical companies, let it be known, like the NASCAR labels. But, as Greens, we feel like disclosure is not enough. There are all kinds of ways around disclosure. It's really important to stop the hijack of our political system by the big corporations, by the banks, by the fossil fuel companies, by the pharmaceutical and health insurance companies. Until we get government out from under their funding, government effectively continues to be, in the service of the lobbyists and the big money spenders.
Given that major political parties that have lots of money can just flick on a switch and start campaigning, whereas the Green Party is building a movement, is it fair to say that the campaign for 2016 has already begun?
Absolutely. I mean, where 2012 ended and 2016 starts, I think we'll never know. And when people ask me, are you going to run? I say, well, I haven't stopped, And in fact, our campaign hasn't stopped. And we're fully engaged. Our 100,000 practically supporters on Facebook are still engaged. They're still looking, to solve the critical problems that we're facing, which politics as usual only makes worse. They just dig us deeper into this hole of Wall Street bailouts, of corporate trade agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership that's sending our jobs overseas and undermining our wages at home. Obama's energy solutions are basically all of the above. It's like giving your child a diet, which includes some poisons, some pesticides, some arsenic, because it's part of a broad and all-inclusive, that's an all of the above diet. We don't need that. The carbon is poisonous to the planet, and you don't undo carbon by having some good clean energy jobs. We need all clean energy jobs, and in fact we now have a blueprint for getting to 100% wind, water, and solar by 2030, and it actually saves us money. It doesn't cost us money. So it is a win-win for jobs, for health, for making wars for oil obsolete, and for averting climate change. What's not to love about that? You know, so people are really excited that we have a head of steam, and that the Green Party has clearly emerged from the last election as the voice and the vehicle for the transformation of our economy and our climate future, and that's in our hands right now.
What does the Green Party need most moving forward to the next election?
I think it's all of the above, and in order to achieve all of the above, you know, I think it's the growth in the organization of the party, because it really is the key engine that can orchestrate all these other things, the campaigns, for example, to open up the debates, the campaigns to open up ballot access, democracy reforms. But you know, democracy reforms by themselves, they don't really hold a candle to the fight to keep a roof over your head, the fight to keep your kids' school open, the fight to get a job. You know, that's really where the energy of social change is, and the energy of survival must be. So as a party, we also have to be very active in not only supporting those movements, but giving those movements a political voice. So it is a many-ringed circus going forward, and I'm delighted to say that the Green Party is really active in doing all of that right now. My running mate, Sherry Honkala, you know, is one of the leaders and the co-founders of the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign, which is flourishing. Shamako Noble, who was one of the key staffers in our campaign and now a very active member of the party, you know, is one of the founders of the Hip Hop Congress, you know, and very closely networked with the Black Agenda Report and the Malcolm X Grassroots Institute, which is very involved in the struggle not only to stop more Trayvon Martin tragedies from happening, but to stop the school to prison pipeline and the struggle of African Americans and people of color in this country to survive, to get a job, to stay out of jail, to not be shot walking down the street, you know, minding their own business. You know, so there are desperate struggles going on right now where the Green Party has leadership roles already. David Cobb in the Move to Amend effort to, you know, to get money out of politics and to clarify that the rights of personhood belong to people, not to the corporations that stole them. You know, so the Greens are out there as the driving force in the social revolution, which is taking place right now. And what the party can do is give that agenda a focus and a set of demands and put them into the political context. Because when you bring a social movement together with a political movement, that's when history tells us we succeed.